The man who saved President Traoré's life was hailed as a national hero, but no one knew that behind the uniform was a trained assassin. Under the blazing West African sun, the marble walls of the presidential palace shimmered. President Ibrahim Traoré, a former military man with a deep desire to connect directly with his people, surrounded himself with elite bodyguards and layers of security. But one new recruit stood out. No one could quite trace where he came from. His name was Yuri Petrov. Rumored to be a former member of the French Foreign Legion, he was a quiet, highly disciplined, rarely made eye contact, but never shirked a task. In his very first week, he foiled a minor attack. That day, he saved Traoré's life, at least that's how it appeared. But was the rescue actually the beginning of something much darker? Fatou Diallo, the president's former intelligence advisor, didn't trust surface impressions. While casually reviewing Yuri's military records, something caught her attention. The files were shallow, some inconsistent, and a few looked freshly forged. Her instincts, sharpened from years of covert analysis, told her this wasn't a simple mistake. But when she raised concerns, President Traoré dismissed them. "Yuri saved my life," he said flatly. At that very moment, the country was preparing for a massive national festival. Hundreds of thousands would gather to see their president. Security was tight, but Fatou was certain the danger was already inside. One man, two identities, and a woman racing against time. But the real question lingered in the shadows. Why did the bodyguard have such easy access to the president's most sensitive information? Fatou wasn't just any advisor, she was a mirror that reflected what others missed. And when she looked into Yuri's past, the reflection was warped. Quietly, she activated her network of old contacts. She re-examined every line of Yuri's documents, every thread in his story. No official record of a Yuri Petrov existed in the French Foreign Legion. Yet Yuri kept rising in the president's circle. He now handled encrypted documents, had clearance to secure zones, and was present in every classified meeting. Everyone trusted him. But Fatou believed that very trust might soon turn deadly. One night, as she walked quietly past the hallway in the presidential residence, she overheard Yuri speaking softly on the phone, in Russian. The tone was chilling. The words, though unintelligible, carried the unmistakable weight of threat. But there was no recording, no proof, and suspicion alone couldn't unlock the gates of justice. The next morning, Fatou stood before Traoré. She laid out everything: missing documentation, blurred timelines, instinctive red flags. Traoré sighed deeply. "Fatou, I can't accuse the man who took a bullet for me. That's only a suspicion." But Fatou didn't back down. What if he arranged that bullet himself? What if the heroism was staged, just to earn your trust? And there it was. Only 3 days remained until the festival. Soon President Traoré would stand in the heart of the crowd. And if Yuri truly was a spy, this was the moment he had been waiting for. Time was slipping away. Doubts were growing, and silence was about to scream. Fatou Diallo no longer sought suspicion. She needed the truth. Through a trusted contact, an ex-French intelligence officer now living in Europe, she opened the door to the past. She sent him Yuri Petrov's photo. The response came in a single word: recognized. Codename Medved, meaning the bear. Real name Alexei Medvedev. That name carried weight in Russian intelligence circles, an urban legend in the shadows, trained to infiltrate, manipulate, and if necessary, eliminate. Not just to kill political leaders, but to control them, to dismantle regimes from the inside out. Fatou gathered everything she had into one file. She finally had enough to expose Yuri, but time was slipping away. The national festival was just around the corner. When she returned to her terminal at the presidential security office, her screen greeted her with nothing but black. All her documents gone. The hard drive had been removed, every trace erased, and that night, Fatou disappeared. No phone signal, no CCTV footage, just a slightly open door and scattered papers across the floor. When President Traoré was told that Fatou had gone missing, he, strong, composed, battle-tested, had to grip the edge of his desk to keep himself steady. The man who once saved his life, could he now be the very threat he feared most? But if that was true, was Yuri really acting alone? Sometimes the fate of a nation is compressed into a single second. Festival day, colorful flags, jubilant songs, cheering crowds, thousands had packed into the square. The African sun blazed overhead as stage lights flickered into place. President Traoré was moments away from stepping on stage. Backstage, Yuri remained calm. His earpiece hummed quietly, hands in his pockets, face unreadable. No one suspected him. But inside, his clock had already started ticking. 14:08, execution time. The president walked out from behind the curtain. The crowd erupted in applause. Yuri's hand slid inside his coat. A silent, custom-made needle gun nestled between his fingers. Traoré's back was turned. Everything was unfolding perfectly, until a voice shattered the moment, blaring through the loudspeakers. Yuri Petrov, codename Medved, hands above your head. The president spun around in shock. Yuri narrowed his eyes. In one fluid motion, he pulled the weapon and bolted. Chaos erupted. From the sea of onlookers, one figure surged forward toward the stage, moving faster than security. Fatou, holding the evidence, eyes locked, unshaken. Yuri made for an exit, but Fatou raised her gun without hesitation and bang! A single shot. His leg buckled. Yuri crashed to the ground. The crowd went still once more, but this time with a collective breath of relief, yet something still felt unfinished. Yuri looked up, blood on his lips, and with a crooked smirk, he whispered, "This was only the first wave, Fatou." Yuri lay in a hospital bed, handcuffed and silent. The bullet wound to his leg was severe but far from fatal. What kept him alive now was not the doctors, but his refusal to speak. Everyone asked the same question. Why won't he say anything? But Fatou saw deeper. He wasn't protecting himself. He was protecting others. President Traoré stepped before the nation with both disappointment and fury in his eyes. This wasn't just a personal betrayal. It was the symptom of a system rotting from within, and he didn't run from it. He turned it into a reckoning. In a live broadcast watched across the country, Traoré addressed his people. As a leader, I failed to see the danger standing beside me. But one woman, Fatou Diallo, defied silence and altered the fate of a nation. The crowd rose to their feet. Fatou was called to the podium. With tears in her eyes and thunderous applause behind her, she was awarded the National Honor Medal. Cameras captured the moment, her trembling hands, the president's firm resolve, and the renewed hope reflected in the eyes of the people. But that night, something darker emerged. New intelligence landed on the president's desk, a decoded message from Yuri's encrypted communications. It revealed that similar assassination plots were underway in other African states, coordinated through internal collaborators. Traoré didn't hesitate. The National Intelligence Council was summoned. Security protocols were torn apart and rebuilt. The system would change radically. Fatou was appointed as the new Director of Internal Security Intelligence. But the most chilling moment came days later. During Yuri's final interrogation, eyes narrowed, lips barely moving, he whispered, "I wasn't alone, and you're still not looking at the one inside." That was when everyone finally understood. This wasn't the end. This was only the beginning.